Good morning, students. The dramatic monologue. The dramatic monologue was revived during the Victorian age by Robert Browning. It was revived because it was used in the past. It's not a new form. The romantic lyric was a lyric of experience, in which the voice heard was the voice of the poet himself. The voice that we hear in the dramatic poem is the voice of some other character, separate from the poet's voice. The dramatic monologue emphasizes the experience of the speaker. The poet creates and not the poet's experience, like in the romantic lyric. The events represented in the poem are not dependent on the personality of the poet or generated by his experience. Robert Browning's poetry offers the clearest example of a self-conscious break from the form of romantic poetry during the Victorian period. Browning rejected the subjective mode of romantic confessional poetry for the more objective mode of the dramatic monologue. Browning emphasized that his poems did not concern himself. He repeated that his poems were dramatic in principle, and so many utterances of so many imaginary persons, not mine. By detaching these utterances from his own person, Browning avoids presenting problems of self-consciousness in his own voice, but he remains preoccupied with such problems in the voices he creates. The dramatic monologues have no necessary beginnings and endings. They have no narration, they have no introduction and progress and development and conflict, etc. The poems rarely progress. There is no progress in the poem, in the dramatic monologue. The speaker seldom reaches a realization by the end of the poem, unavailable to him at the beginning. Rather, the form has a circling quality that reveals by its repetitions the fixed elements of the speaker's identity. Browning's characters construct worlds with the shaping spirit of their imaginations, but worlds so eccentric, so grotesque, that the poems emphasize not the truth, but the delusion which springs from a privileged egoism. Browning explores the extension and limits of egoism, therefore self-interest. Such a poetic enterprise involves the poet, who is not the character in the poem, in a paradoxical, contradictory situation, because it implies that he can free himself of the constraints of his own personality to explore those of others that he creates in his poems. The dramatic monologue provides the poet a way of achieving an objectivity and a range of experience that the voice of the poet in the romantic lyric poem no longer seems to offer. Browning uses the dramatic monologue to express and transform, change his romantic heritage. Modernist poets, eager to avoid abstraction, vagueness, to give the poem the status of an object rather than a statement, seize upon the potential in Browning's method as the center of their poetics. The Romantic poet, for the most part, had confidence in the range and resonance of his personal voice. But post-Romantic poets, those who came after the Romantic period, from Tennyson and Browning through the followers of Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot, sought the escape that the dramatic monologue offered them from the restrictions of voice imposed by the mere personality of the poet. They wanted something different. They wanted to avoid their own voices appearing in their works. The mask allows man to escape the limits of a single personality and achieve the intensity and stability of an aesthetic object, a set of principles underlying the work. It paradoxically resists both the mutability, which means liability to change, and the monotony, lack of variety, with which life limits experience. Prosopopoeia, a figure of speech in which an imagined, absent, or dead person or thing is represented as speaking, reminds us of personification and apostrophes. Tennyson is the Victorian poet usually credited with the development of the dramatic monologue, despite the fact that he uses the form very differently from Browning. Tennyson's early experiments with speakers other than the poet derive from the classical ancient rhetorical form of prosopopoeia, in which the writer imagines what a particular historical or literary character might have said on a specific occasion and presents that character as actually speaking. Tennyson's mature dramatic monologues combine the tradition of prosopopoeia with the contemporary rhetorical form of monodrama, which is a dramatic poem placed in the mouth of a single speaker, the aim of which is to display a range and variety of passions by using remarkable linguistic resources. Tennyson's poems, unlike Browning's, do not attempt to show individuality of character, but phases of passion, not incidents, but passion. They intend no irony, they are not ironic. They evoke only wonder at the power of the passion and the skill with which the poet has realized its display. Tennyson tends to draw his speakers from the world of myth rather than history, whereas Browning preferred history. His poems tend to be more lyrical, more passionate, more concentrating on emotions than dramatic. He uses whatever dramatic situation the poem contains not as an opportunity for revealing eccentricity of character as Browning does, but as the occasion, as in T.S. Eliot's words, for stating an elegiac mood. Tennyson's poems do not contain the elaborate irony of Browning's dramatic monologues. Later, the poets Morris and Swinburne write much more frequently in their own voices than Alfred Tennyson and Browning had done. In so doing, reflect a renewed confidence in the personal imagination. But they nonetheless deliberately and frequently separate the voice of the poem from the poet. They combine their own voices with the characters they have created, but not always. The Romantic poet, for the most part, had confidence in the range and resonance of his personal voice. But post-Romantic poets from Alfred Tennyson and Robert Browning, through the followers of Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot, sought the escape that the dramatic monologue offered from the restrictions of voice imposed by the mere personality of the poet. Modernist poets make of the concept of voice not merely a poetic strategy, but an idea of personality that motivates poetic expression. William Butler Yeats, Ezra Pound, and T.S. Eliot each use an idea of persona to contain contradictions similar to those which the dramatic monologue expresses in Victorian poetry. The major Victorian and modernist poets, with the important exception of William Butler Yeats, seek to avoid making the personal agency which imagination involves a central category of their projects, of their poetics. This is the statue of Ulysses. Who is Ulysses? Ulysses is the hero of Homer's great epic poem, the Odyssey. Ulysses and Odysseus are the same person. Ulysses is Roman, Odysseus is the Greek name. Ulysses is the king of Ithaca, a small island in Asia Minor. He lived on that island for many years with his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. What do we know about Ulysses? He was a man of outstanding wisdom. He was shrewd, he was eloquent, he was resourceful, and he was courageous and brave. It was Ulysses who had accomplished the capture of Troy by means of the wooden horse. Ulysses had spent 10 years fighting and another 9 or 10 years more wandering through the sea and meeting different new situations and unexpected adventures. What is the poem about? Why did Tennyson choose Ulysses as his figure in the poem Ulysses? Because he wanted to see this great man, how he would react when he returned home after 20 years of fighting and wandering. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth Among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and doil unequal laws unto a savage race, that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone, on shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy Hades vexed the dim sea. This is the first situation that portrays how Ulysses reacted when he returned home after a long life of battle. The first line tells us that it little profits that an idle king, he is the king of Ithaca, but he is not happy. He feels idle. This kind of life is not what he requires or wants. By this still hearth, this is a metaphor, this is a figure of speech. What is he implying? He is implying the island. The island is a still hearth. What does still mean? Still means it doesn't move. What is the poet here comparing this island to? He is comparing the island to the sea that is vexed, that is wild, that moves, that takes the person to different places at different times. So Tennyson here is implying that the island is not good enough for Ulysses because it is still, because it doesn't offer him any kind of adventure, any kind of excitement. So still hearth implies the island that he is governing. Among these barren crags, again a figure of speech. Barren crags means barren stones. The island he is living on now, he is ruling now, is barren. It's empty, it's void, it has no emotions, it has no excitement. It is like stones that lie motionless on the ground, doing nothing. So, from the very first two lines, we realize that Ulysses, he is not a happy man. He is not satisfied with this new life. Although he is king, yet he doesn't like the life he is living. Another dilemma or problem which he faces, matched with an aged wife. His wife is old, but that's not her fault. That's why he uses the word matched. They are both old. He is old and she is old. So the man here is not against his wife, no. What he is unable to cope with is that they have been separated for years and years, and now it is very hard to reunite again. So the man here is not against his wife, but he is contemplating the whole situation around him, which he doesn't desire. I meet and doil unequal laws unto a savage race. On the island, I am expected to rule uncivilized people. Each group wants its own laws to be governed by. I don't know I don't have this ability to rule such uncivilized and savage people. The people that I am ruling, they only know certain things: to gather things, sleep, and eat. But when it comes to who I am, what I am, they have no idea. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the very beginning of the poem show us that Ulysses is not a happy man. What does he want? I cannot rest from travel. It's impossible. Impossible. I can't just sit there governing savage people. I must return and travel. I will drink life to the lees, a metaphor. Ulysses, to him life is a delicious drink that he wants to drink to the very last drop. This is a figure of speech. It's a metaphor. All times I have enjoyed all my time greatly. There are times when I have suffered greatly, but I didn't mind. Both with those that loved me. I have lived with people that have loved me and respected me, and I have lived alone. I have lived on land, and I have lived at sea. Here we have another figure of speech where the rainy Hades, Hades, this is a constellation of stars. The poet here sees that this constellation is like, a troublesome person, a person who likes to make trouble. This constellation keeps on annoying the sea and making the sea go wild. So we have here a kind of personification. It's a metaphor, a figure of speech. Hades, a constellation of stars, is vexing the sea, is annoying the sea, making the sea go wild. I am become a name for always roaming with a hungry heart. Much have me seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honoured of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untravelled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. I am great. I have a name now. People know who I am. Not, of course, my people at home, the savage people that I govern at home. They have no idea who I am, but I am a famous person. I always roam, I always move around with a hungry heart. This is a figure of speech. The heart is not hungry. The heart here can't be hungry. It's not the heart that becomes hungry. So, hungry heart. Notice the alliteration, hungry heart. So, the heart needs, requires to be fed with more and more adventures. Much have me seen and known. I have seen a great deal. Cities of men, I have seen different types of people, countries, cities, manners, behaviors, different kinds of climates, different councils, policies, governments. And I discovered that I am not little, but I am honored of them all. They all honor me. They all respect me. And drunk delight of battle with my peers, a metaphor, a figure of speech, drunk delight, alliteration, drunk delight of battle. Battle is to him a delight. It is like drinking something very delicious that makes him intoxicated and enjoy the life he is living. Far on the ringing plains of windy Troy, it seems that Troy was a windy country, and this is most of the time where he spent his battles. I am a part of all that I have met. I am now the history. I have become part of the country. When you mention a certain country, you can't avoid mentioning my name. Yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. But to obtain experience is like going through an arch that is bright and shining. This arch no one has traveled through. And when you go inside this arch, when you go beyond this arch, the boundaries disappear. There are no limits. You continue walking and you obtain more and more and more experience and knowledge. Knowledge has no boundaries. Knowledge has no margins. Knowledge, you have to keep on going after it all the time. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself and this grey spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star, beyond the utmost bound of human thought. It's a great mistake to decide to rest and stop living your life as you used to. It's a great mistake to put an end of your life. To rust unburnished, the poet here is using a figure of speech. He is comparing our lives to a sword. The sword, if it is not used, it rusts. This is exactly how our lives are. If we don't live, if we don't pursue knowledge and experience, then we lose our shine, like a sword. As though to breathe were life. Many of us believe that just because we're breathing, we are living. No, that's not living. We can put life piled on life and it will be very little. It won't have a meaning. And of one to me little remains. My life is now very, very short. But every hour is saved. But I still have some hours left. From that eternal silence. What's the eternal silence? The eternal silence. Here the poet is implying death. As long as he is not dead yet, then he still has hours to use to pursue knowledge and experience. Something more, a bringer of new things. I can create something new even in those few hours that are left me. And vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself. How long did he stay on the island? How long is this, what made him react in such a manner? How long had he been staying with his on the island of Ithaca? 3 suns. What does the poet imply by 3 suns? How many days? 3 days. Ulysses had spent only 3 days as a king, and yet he was very, very upset. This grey spirit, what does he mean by this grey spirit? He means himself. He is old, his hair is grey. What about this grey spirit? He tells us that it is yearning in desire. He has the desire to follow knowledge. He wants to continue looking for more and more knowledge. Like what? A simile here, a figure of speech. Like a sinking star. He compares himself to a sinking star, and we know that the star appears in the night. It lightens up the dark sky. He wants to lighten up the darkness around him, even if his life is very short, even if he is sinking, therefore dying. So he wants to use what time he has to do something good. He's going to look for knowledge even beyond human thought, in the places that no human being might think of. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the sceptre and the isle, well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labour by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Okay, this part is cancelled, but you have to have a quick idea about it. Telemachus is Ulysses' son. Telemachus is going to be the new king of the island. Does that mean that Ulysses hates him? He's giving him his place that he doesn't want? No. Telemachus is not like his father Ulysses. They are 2 different personalities. Telemachus has never been fighting abroad. He has never moved around. He has never seen what his father had seen. He has lived all his life at home with his mother, and he was the best thing that could govern the new island after Ulysses. So this Ulysses here is speaking to Telemachus, and he is also speaking to his mariners. He is trying to convince his mariners to leave what they are doing at home and to go with him on a new journey beyond the seas. This part is also cancelled. Ulysses was the legendary Greek hero, the story of whose heroic deeds and adventures is sung by Homer in his Odyssey. The influence of classical poets, Homer and Virgil, is seen in phrasing and many verbal echoes, but despite this in-depthness, Tennyson's treatment is original. Ulysses is a dramatic monologue. It is dramatic because it expresses the feeling not of the poet but of Ulysses. And it is a monologue because only one person speaks throughout the poem, and that is Ulysses. The others merely listen to him. Ulysses, the hero of the Trojan War, returned to his island state of Ithaca after 20 years. He has been ruling his state for some time, but the life of peace, devoid of adventure, does not suit him. In the poem, he is supposed to be standing at the coast of the sea, surrounded by his sailors or mariners, whom he exhorts to follow him in quest of more knowledge and experience. He gives arguments after arguments in favor of a life of travel and adventure. First, the people of the island are uncivilized, savage. The laws are unjust, unequal, and so he will not like to rule there. His wife has grown old, he has grown old, and they have been apart for so many years, and the people do not understand his real nature. Secondly, he has grown used to a life of adventure, and the inactive life of a king does not suit him. He has visited many lands and known many people with their different habits and ways of life, but there are still many more lands to be seen, and he is eager to visit them. The more he knows, the greater is his thirst for knowledge. He would like to follow knowledge like a sinking star. Human life is short and knowledge is infinite, and therefore no time is to be wasted. At home, one becomes rusted, one shines only in youth. He has only a few more years to live, and he would devote them to the pursuit of as much knowledge and experience as possible. As regards his island, his kingdom, he has no worry about its government. His son Telemachus is quite sensible and prudent, patient, and he would look after the welfare of his state. He would give due worship to the gods and would also take care of his old mother with love and tenderness. Telemachus is interested in the ordinary, everyday duties of life, while Ulysses craves for travel and adventure. So he would be quite happy to stay on the island and rule it, while Ulysses would enjoy his life of adventure abroad. Ulysses urges the mariners, sailors, that stand by him to set sail with him. In the past, they have cheerfully faced together great dangers and difficulties, and they would also do so in the future. They achieved much that was noble. No doubt they have grown old, but noble achievement is possible even in old age. They would sail towards the west, even beyond the western horizon. It is possible that they would drown, but it is also possible that they may reach the happy isle, the abode of their dead heroes. They may be physically weak, but they are still strong in determination. Ulysses is a noble poem concerned with character delineation rather than with the narration or action. It displays Tennyson's command over language and his felicity of phrasing. He has said what he had to say in the fewest possible words. This makes the diction terse and epigrammatic. Many of the lines of the poem have passed into common everyday proverbs. Thus we have today to follow knowledge like a sinking star. Also, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Tennyson was a consummate artist, and he chooses his words both with reference to their sense and their meaning, or their sound, sorry. Music is created by the clever use of alliteration, liquid consonants like L, M, and N, and the bringing together of a number of vowel sounds as in the following. There lies the port, the vessels puff her sail. There gloom the dark broad seas. The poem is written in blank verse. There is no division into stanzas, it is continuous verse, and blank verse is known or defined as iambic pentameters that do not rhyme together. There is a big difference between blank verse and free verse. Free verse does not have a rhythm of iambic pentameters. This is the end. Next, the dramatic monologue will be continued, and we will be studying Robert Browning and his poem My Last Duchess. Thank you.